Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners, to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius, the official energy drink of pewterreport.com. Happy Victory Monday to everybody, the second edition of Victory Monday for the 2024 season as it pertains to your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs defeated the Detroit Lions by a score of 20-16 yesterday afternoon in Detroit. A marquee win for Todd Bowles. We'll talk about all the credit that he deserves. And the Bucs start the season 2-0. So a lot of fun stuff to get into. Some injury news that is a little unfortunate, but we have to address as well. And we will break it all down. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place at pewterreport.com, SR Scott Reynolds. Scott, happy second Victory Monday to you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Matt. This is becoming quite the habit that we're getting into right here. Now, it's a fun habit, and we're used to this, right? I mean, Tampa Bay has started 2-0 in each of the last four seasons. And of course, you go back to 2020 and 2021. That was a 13-win season. 2022 kind of devolved into 8-9 after a 2-0 start. And then you've got the season last year, which started off very promising 2-0 and then kind of dissolved into a 4-7 malaise at mid-season, and then they got their act together. So we'll see. I appreciate what Todd Bowles said after the game in the locker room. He said, we haven't won a championship yet. We're just 2-0. It's on to Denver, and that's the right approach. And he said, act like we've been here. And I think for the most part, this was a revenge game for the Buccaneers, but I don't think they're going to be celebrating too much. I think it was kind of like we came, we saw, we kicked their ass, and just like Ghostbusters, Bill Murray. But it wasn't anything more than that. I don't think there's going to be a hangover this week. I think they're on to bigger and better things with this team, especially offensively. I don't know how you could rest on your laurels after the offensive performance in Detroit, which was truly offensive, Matt.
It was offensive for sure. Yeah, I don't see the Bucs throwing a parade. And by the way, Bucs fans are still owed a parade for Jason Licht re-signing everybody in the offseason, like you mentioned. But yeah, I mean, I don't think the Bucs are like popping champagne that they beat Detroit. I also do at the same time feel as if it's a sigh of relief, and not in the sense of like they never thought that they could beat the Lions. I think they knew they had them in them the whole time, that they could defeat Detroit. But the fact that they lost twice last year and came so close, it's almost like, all right, now I can relax. Just in the thought process of, we know we can beat good teams. Detroit's obviously a very good team. They started out the year 1-1 last season as well. So, there's no doubt that Detroit can still be a Super Bowl contender at the end of the year. So getting that monkey off their back a little bit, I think it kind of lets them, even though they're undefeated, lets them kind of reconfigure their aspirations for the season. And that's what makes it interesting going up against the Broncos this week, because we all know the Bucs are a favorite against the winless Broncos, who their rookie quarterback has struggled like all the rookie quarterbacks have right now, throwing a lot of interceptions. But you see the Eagles the following week, then they have that Thursday night game against the Falcons, and then that gauntlet that comes up. Yeah, I'm not saying it's like a trap game. Denver's going to upset the Bucs, but they certainly cannot just be all rah-rah, hey, loosey-goosey, we're just going to show up and win, because that's snake-bitten the Bucs before, which is a ways away. But yeah, a lot of things to correct still.
Yeah, it has. And I think this not being such a dominant performance, especially on the offensive side for Todd Bowles, the defense certainly did its part, but the pass rush was actually much improved against the Lions from what it had been. I'll get into that during my rant at 4:20 when we do roll call. Not right now. Don't tell us where you're watching the show from now. Do it at 4:20.
Not yet.
But no sacks. They got to Goff, but they didn't get him on the ground. Yaya Diaby still looking for that first sack. He's itching for it, I know. They allowed over 400 yards of total offense. Yards don't win games, points do. But there's a lot of things that can be cleaned up on the Bucs' defensive performance. Matter of fact, the only thing that really is worth talking about was that red zone defense, 1 of 7. That's what won the Buccaneers the game, especially on the defensive side. So I like the fact that they won. It's always better to learn from a win than learn from a loss. But getting the running game back over 100 yards per game. That's going to be a point of emphasis for Liam Cohen. I chatted with him a little bit after the game. He's not happy with his unit's performance, nor should he be. They did enough to win, and against a really good team, that's a really good sign. When you're not playing your best football and you can still beat an upper echelon team, that's a sign of leveling up. And I think it's a sign. We talked about this a little bit last night. I'll just spend about 10 seconds on it. Todd Bowles has leveled up. He's leveled up as a play caller, as a game manager. And that was a necessary thing, Matt. We talked about it in the offseason. How are the Buccaneers going to take that next step? Yeah, they've got to accumulate more talent. And the young talent from a year ago from that great draft class, Elijah Cansey, Yaya Diaby, they have to level up. Young players like Zion McCollum, have to level up. They need some rookies to come in and make an impact like Bucky Irving and, Jalen McMillan, guys like that. Graham Barton has to be as good as advertised. You have to have a guy like Servassier Dennis level up in year 2. But we talked about this coaching staff having to level up as well. Liam Cohen, I think, is an upgrade over Dave Canales, and Todd Bowles is an upgrade over the 2023 version of Todd Bowles so far.
Yeah, who would have thought the big coaching blunder would have happened to Dan Campbell and not Todd Bowles in yesterday's game with that whole snafu right before the second quarter. By the way, that picture that was just up, I was looking at it this morning.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite pictures that we've seen of Todd Bowles like in the action, because a lot of it's just stoic Todd Bowles with his arms crossed. But something about him being a little bit more animated. We don't know if he's talking to a referee or a player. That's just a side note that I don't know. I enjoy that picture for whatever reason. And
great analysis there. I also enjoy this one here too. That's
well, they have a long-time relationship too.
They
Todd
do.
Bowles and Dan Campbell, going back to I believe the Miami Dolphins days. So these two coaches that are familiar with each other. They're very, very friendly, obviously, from spending so much time together. And I'm not penciling in the Detroit Lions the way that the Bucs and the Eagles had such a fierce rivalry going back to the Sapp and Barber days,
right?
Or even like the rivalry that, yes, they're in the division, but the battles between Tom Brady and the Bucs and the Saints over the past couple of years. But I mean, if we get another matchup between the Bucs and Detroit, especially if the Bucs can even, it's very fun. If the Bucs can even the score and hopefully do it in the postseason, which it would have to this year.
You sweat me, I'll sweep you, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then that leads into some other more fanfare the following season. But I spoke to Todd Bowles today, and we'll get to the super chat as well. I asked him about kind of what he's seen from the running game, what some of the issues. And I just didn't love that he's just the Lions are a good team. Well, I mean, that's why you got Graham Barton, right? That's why you drafted Bucky Irving to improve this overall run game. So I hope the run game can improve. And shout out to the defense for what they did. But let's get to the super chats today. Got a lot of them. Thank you to all the Pewter people that are watching. Thanks to Rev Fish, a Pewter Report YouTube channel member with a $4.99 super chat, says, biggest takeaway for me versus Detroit is we have got some depth on this team. Wow. Yeah. Also, look at what Izzy has quietly done. We just need sacks now.
Yeah, I'm going to get into the sack part of it and the pressure part during my rant in about 10 minutes here. But Christian Izzian, he stepped up and kind of did his best Antoine Winfield Jr. impersonation, making a big splash play. And this is a guy, Matt, if you go back to last year, and Pewter people, remember, started out of the gate hot, 2 interceptions in his first 2 NFL games, then went on a 17-game drought where he couldn't buy an interception. And that's what really prompted this team to draft Tyke Smith, a playmaker at Georgia. They wanted a guy that's going to get in there and make more plays, not just be a steady Eddie in the secondary, but be a playmaker. And so hats off to Christian Izzian for stepping up and being a playmaker on Sunday, for sure.
Yeah, and another thing I want to say about Izzy, because we got to speak to him today. I'm trying to find the exact quote as well, but he was asked about playing with Jordan Whitehead. Obviously, Izzy is in for Antoine Winfield Jr., but he had an interesting quote today talking about playing with Jordan Whitehead. He said, it's fun. I haven't played with a safety like Jordan my entire career of college or the NFL. Mm-hmm. Just having someone real similar as far as aggression and just energy-wise, having him out there, it felt like I was playing with a different version of myself. I thought that last part was so interesting. Cool. I'm playing with a different version of myself. But you know what? I see it a little bit because he's always sprinting. He's always aggressive, always getting after it. He obviously doesn't have the size of Jordan Whitehead or all of the physical traits or, just overall skill set that Antoine Winfield Jr. has. But I see a little bit of, and no pun intended, I don't mean this to be rude, but I see like a mini Jordan Whitehead to a degree in Christian Izien, even though Izien is playing the free safety role and Jordan Whitehead is more of the strong safety role. And also, Christian Izien keeping receipts on himself as well, because he tweeted back in August, "Time will tell."
Yeah.
Obviously, because there was a lot of movement, like you mentioned, Tyke Smith, and a lot of different things the Bucs were doing in the secondary. And then he quote tweeted himself and showed the hourglass. Obviously had a good game. So yeah, I'm happy for Christian Izien, and he's a great guy to talk to in the locker room. And it just shows how important depth is. And the Bucs have it in the secondary. I mean, who knows? He could end up playing corner again based on
and also the defensive line. You got Greg Gaines, you got CJ Brewer, you've got Mike Green. They all played some roles, in helping to contain this Lions defense, especially getting tougher as they got closer to the goal line. So that was great to see. Kyle Miller, $1.99 super chat, says, "We are 2-0 ever since Bowles said he was excited."
Yeah, and we've seen various versions of
he
excitement.
He whispered.
There's the screaming. There's the whisper, which kind of reminds me of like the beginning of the Kendrick Lamar diss of Drake. They not like us. That's just
it was a bit of a careless whisper, was it not? Kind of a mellow
bit. I mean,
ballad.
Right? Just
I'm excited for this.
Yeah, and this is great. It's fun. I hope we don't beat it to the ground too much. Like eventually it's going to be like.
I think he has to say it this week, because if they somehow get upset by the Broncos, it's going to come back to Bowles saying that he wasn't excited for that game. So
were you not excited enough for this game?
He's got to say it for the rest of the season.
One last thing, and thank you, Kyle Miller, for the super chat. One last thing, you mentioned Greg Gaines real quick. We spoke to him. He deserves major kudos because we all know Vita Vea went out, and we'll get to Vita Vea's injury in just a moment. Greg Gaines took the bulk of picking up the slack when Vita Vea went out. Greg Gaines played 66 of the 85 snaps that the Bucs were on the field for defense. That was 78%. And you got to remember, now, Gaines played a lot last week. I think he played around 61%, if I'm not mistaken. But you also have to remember
61 snaps.
61 snaps.
No, I'm saying he played 61% of the snaps last week.
Yeah. Sorry,
not 61 snaps. He played 66 snaps yesterday. Thank God for air conditioning, right?
Yeah, exactly. And last week was because Kalijah Cansey was out. This week, obviously, they were both out. But we have to remember, Greg Gaines. Now, when he was with the Rams, he talked about this. He played every single snap, so he was used to it. Yeah. But his role is very different here in Tampa Bay. It was last year, where he's playing 20 to 25 snaps. So for him to just go the whole way at 66 snaps, the next closest defensive tackle actually was Vita Vea at 39, and then it was Logan Hall at 30.
Yep.
We have to remember he's coming back from that foot injury.
Yeah.
And then Will Golson at 27. I think Greg Gaines, obviously, he's going to go under the radar compared to the other stars on this team, but he played a big part in the Bucs. Really, I look at this win as kind of like putting duct tape together and piecing it all together, and that's what they did on offense.
It was like a Flex Seal win.
A little bit, but hey, it all counts the same. Doesn't matter if you win 100-0 or 20-16.
Yep.
Thank you to Mikey Moneybags with the $4.99 super chat, who says Hutchinson was a beast, but when he lined up against Wirfs, he had no chance.
Yeah, I think the Lions were smart enough to realize that the best way to use Aiden Hutchinson was on the backup right tackle, right? I mean, that just kind of made sense. And he took Justin School to school. Out of the 4.5 sacks, 3 were on School, but I didn't think he played that bad. And Josh Capo, actually, from Pewter Report, kind of looked at the stats and did a deeper dive. In the 3 sacks that he surrendered were the only 3 pressures he gave up the entire game. So it wasn't like he was getting murdered every single snap, but 3 sacks is 3 sacks. At the same time, and I'm not trying to make excuses for Liam Cohen or Justin School, but we just have to look at the facts sometime. You're talking about the number 2 overall pick, a double-digit sacker, a Pro Bowler versus a backup offensive tackle, a swing tackle, a guy that came in the league as a 6th-round pick, right? And he's getting chipped by tight end Cade Otton, who had a terrible game. I mean, even Pro Football Focus, I don't agree with them on everything, but they said he was the worst Buccaneer in the game. I agree. Bad game for Cade. And then, there was a time where he got a sack when Rachaad White kind of, you could say, chipped him, but it's almost like, and this is what we, back in Pop Warner, we would get on the kids when they throw a chicken wing. You just kind of like throw your elbow out there. You're not really blocking. You're just like dapping the guy. And it just was a poor effort all the way around. But yeah, I mean, you have to give Hutchinson his due. He's that guy for a reason. He's an impact, game-wrecking, elite edge rusher, and they're supposed to win. They're supposed to do that. When you have a great player like a Max Crosby and Aiden Hutchinson, those types of stud pass rushing edge rushers, like, that's to be expected, especially against a backup tackle.
Yeah, that's what I kept saying on the game day show. I said, listen, I don't think Justin Skule is the worst offensive lineman on the planet. Yeah. He's going up against a top 5 pass rusher in the league. Now, it was still very ugly, but context is everything. And while it still was not pretty, I am not as insanely concerned about Justin Skule as I think a lot of Bucs fans are. Like, he could right the ship entirely, and we'll see what happens with Luke Gedeke. Todd Bowles, once again, was very vague about who could be available this week, and we'll see about this guy and that guy and everything. But let's just say, hypothetically, Justin Skule has to start again.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it, especially against Denver. Now, if he struggles against Denver, and then you play Philadelphia the following week, and they got Bryce Hupp, and they got some good, pass rushers over there, then I think you have to start looking at other options in the organization of itself. But, everyone has a bad game. It's a lot to ask to go on the road against a Super Bowl contender and go up against, the top guy. And I think Liam Cohen will adjust as well. He's shown that he's able to, make those amendments to, get the best out of the team. And I don't think he's going to put Justin Skule on an island as much as I agree, as much as we all think.
Done a little bit of an advanced look at Denver, just statistically speaking, just to see what they've done. I haven't watched any film yet, but sometimes stats don't tell the story. Sometimes they do. But right now, Denver's sitting at just 4 sacks through 2 games. I'm not terribly concerned about what they have to offer, especially with the quarterback position. Bo Nix, 4 interceptions, no touchdown passes yet. And this is going to be a big topic for a Bucs versus Broncos preview on Wednesday. Wednesday show, 4 o'clock. Make sure you don't miss it. Remember, we're in the regular season mode now. So we do podcasts Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 4 o'clock. Then, of course, our post-game podcast. So make sure you tune in for a Bucs versus Broncos preview. Servassier Dennis had a hell of a game, and we'll talk more about him a little bit later in the show. But right now, Matt, this is where we turn the floor over really to our pewter people who are watching, because it's a thing we do every Monday, and it's called
Roll Call. That's right, as Scott perfectly set it up. It's a Monday show. It's 4:20. It just turned 4:21, but you get the point. We want to know, where are you at, pewter people? We do this every Monday show, our first episode of the week, because we love interacting with our fans as much as we can. And we have great fans all over the world. So Scott's going to start talking about the Bucs pass rush, I believe. And if you want to start putting on the screen where you're watching the show from, we will put it up on the screen there, and then give a couple personal shout outs later on in the show as well. So Scott, whenever you are ready, please take it away.
So where were the sacks? We saw the signs of a pass rush against the Washington Commanders in week 1. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka had a sack. Servassier Dennis had a sack. Yaya Diaby had 5 pressures. There was some things to be excited about. And so where did the sacks go in week 2? This was a Lions team that has a really good offensive line, yet Jared Goff was sacked 3 times in Tampa, 2 times in the playoffs. Now, you're going to hear from me, and I'm not changing my mind or reversing course. If you give me a particular play and say, would you rather have a sack or a pressure? Well, if the pressure leads to an interception, I'll take the pressure, of course. Otherwise, I'll take the sack, because there's some finality on that. You can still have a pressure on a touchdown pass. Right, pressures mean that you affected the quarterback, but it doesn't necessarily mean you affected him in a bad way. It just means that you kind of did your job and you got to him. But sometimes, and we've seen it before, guys like Patrick Mahomes, they get pressured and they still make plays. Well, Jared Goff didn't get sacked at all, but he got pressured more than he did in both games combined last year against Tampa Bay. I wrote about this in my 2-point conversion. I'll read part of it here. Tampa Bay didn't get a sack on Sunday, but had 23 pressures and 11 quarterback hits on Goff, forcing him into a pair of interceptions on 60 pass plays. And this was without top pass rushing defensive tackle Kalijah Kancey and only having Vita Vea for a half before he left with an injured knee. Yaya Diaby, though, leveled up from having 5 pressures last week to 7 pressures, and that's a good sign. He also had a pair of quarterback hits in this game, and that was really important. The quarterback hits are important, okay, and I'll get to that in a second. In a playoff loss at Detroit last year, the Bucs only pressured Goff 17 times and hit him only 3 times with a pair of sacks on 48 pass plays. Goff was pressured 6 more times in week 2 this year on Sunday's game and hit twice as much than the Lions' victory in the playoffs. So those hits, the cumulative effect of those hits, I think affected him in the fourth quarter. And even though the first interception really wasn't due to, getting hit or getting pressured per se, it probably should have been called a pass interference call on Tampa Bay, but the Bucs will take it. But that last interception when Levante David was closing in on Jared Goff, well, that did affect the pass, and that allowed Christian Izien to come away with the interception. In Detroit's Week 6 win at Tampa Bay, Goff was hit just once in that creamsicle game, and only sacked 3 times and only pressured 16 times. So improved pressure helped. Now, of course, so did the pass coverage. Zion McCollum was a star. 83.2 Pro Football Focus coverage grade. He allowed just 2 receptions for 20 yards on 6 targets, plus he had his first career interception, and then, of course, had 4 passes broken up. So it was truly a marriage between the Bucs secondary, even though it was banged up, and an improved pass rush, even though they didn't get home. The pressures were more than they had been in the 2 previous games against the Lions, and certainly the quarterback hits were more. You mentioned, Matt, Greg Gaines. He's not known to be a pass rusher, but I'm going to rattle off the hits. Yaya Diaby had 2 hits. Anthony Nelson had 3 pressures. All 3 of them were quarterback hits. William Golston had 1 pressure, and it was a hit. Greg Gaines had 2 pressures. They were both hits. C.J. Brewer only had 1 pressure. It was a hit. So out of the 23 pressures against the Lions, they didn't sack Goff, but they hit him 11 times. And no quarterback likes to be hit. And that's kind of the hidden statistic in all of this that stands out to me when I look at how the Bucs defense really affected Jared Goff and got him to not throw a touchdown and throw a pair of picks and be a little off, especially in the fourth quarter when Tampa Bay, with those 4 possessions that the Lions had, they forced a punt, they got an interception, and 2 turnovers on downs to finish the game.
I think that's some great insight that you bring up, Scott. It's been very interesting as it pertains to the pass rush specifically for the Bucs. Is that throughout the first 2 games, and they got a couple of sacks against Jaden Daniels in Washington in week 1, but it was a lot of as well, like, hey, they got good pressure, and then, Jaden Daniels just escaped. Where this week it was more of they got good pressure, and Jared Goff was still able to get the pass off, not complete the pass, but get the pass off. So it's been a unique way of generating pressure, not seeing the ultimate end result, which is getting a sack and taking down the quarterback, but still being effective in closing down the pockets, making the quarterbacks feel uncomfortable, and ultimately ending up in a win for Tampa Bay. And I think the Bucs are onto something with just wearing down opponents. You mentioned the pass rush eventually wearing down Jared Goff, which was very present, especially in that fourth quarter. If you go back to the week 1 on the offensive side of the ball, it was the Bucs wearing down Washington, running the ball with Bucky Irving, breaking off those big runs and kind of closing out the game. So week 1, it was wearing them down offensively. And then obviously yesterday, it was all about the defense wearing down Jared Goff. And I think that's why Christian Izien's interception, while nicely done by Christian Izien, I think even he'll admit that was one of the more easy ones that you could get as a defensive back. But it all counts the same again.
It does. And that was due to a hit by Levante David. Also, I forgot to mention Chris Braswell had 1 hurry in the game, and that was a quarterback hit. So you look at the reserves, now not even the starters, the reserves. Out of the 11 quarterback hits, you had 2 from Greg Gaines, even though he was a quasi-starter because Logan Hall also got the start. But you had really 3 from Anthony Nelson. We'll get, let's say, out of the 2, we'll give 1 to Gaines in his reserve role because he did play pretty much the entire second half when Vita Vea was out. But 3 for Anthony Nelson, 1 for William Golston, 1 for Greg Gaines, 1 from C.J. Brewer, and 1 from Chris Braswell. So out of 11 quarterback hits, 7 of those came from reserves along the defensive line. That's depth.
And the Bucs did a good job too. You get that many hits on the quarterback, like you're bound to get penalized for a couple of them. There was only one roughing the passer penalty on Yaya Diaby, and even that one was like pretty close to bang bang. But that's just the world we live in with the NFL now, is that any type of hit on the quarterback and it's going to be a big deal. But I thought that was an underrated good job too, of not going too over the line when it comes to
Matt. Speaking of depth, we're getting tremendous amount of depth when it comes to our Pewter Report TV YouTube channel members. We want to recognize the newest Pewter Report TV channel members: Penn Wallace, Eric B., Angela S., Timothy Fitzgerald, CGB, Michael Beckman, Morpheus, I love that name, D. Jones 863, Cameron C., David Stacks, Kieran Butt, JB, Jason Wadier, and Darius Miller. We greatly appreciate you all deciding to join up. And I think some of those were gift subscriptions, and we want to thank Hizo and Joel Elrican for being, and also Paul, aka Florida Dreamhouse, for stepping up and spreading some of the love around. We always want to thank our Pewter Report Platinum members. Here we go. Pewter Platinum members: Scott Federico, Guru, Scotty J, Rachel Gordon, and Noah Parr. And the list of Pewter Premier members keeps growing and growing and growing. We want to thank everybody. As we let this scroll, it'll take about 5 minutes to read all the names, so we're going to let it scroll for a bit as we get back to some Super Chats, Matt.
Yeah, and thank you again, everybody, for all your support and being a Pewter Report YouTube channel member. Let's see, where did we leave off with these Super Chats? We've gotten a fair amount, so again, thank you to all the Pewter people.
Bill Vincent, yes.
Yeah, Bill Vincent. Thank you, Bill, for this $5 Super Chat, who says, will Bowles and Jason Licht finally get the credit they deserve for, quote, rebuilding after the retirement of Brady? Such a great game for so many young Bucs. Hey, you know what? The Bucs are starting to get a little bit of national attention. Yep. Now, it's 2 games in, and there's a very long way to go. We know what happened last year when the Bucs got on a winning streak and how it halted. However, if the Bucs win double-digit games this season, if they win their division, and hopefully make a solid run to the playoffs, obviously, hopefully go to the Super Bowl, I don't see how Jason Licht can't win General Manager of the Year, GM of the Year, just based off of what they did in the offseason, completely churning around a new roster that went from one of the oldest rosters to now one of the youngest rosters, and getting immediate impacts from rookies right now, like Bucky Irving and Graham Barton, obviously, and Tyke Smith, and seeing the development of some of their second-year guys, whether it's, Servase Dennis, who looks like he's going to be a big-time player for Tampa Bay, and obviously Cody Mauch starting on the right side. He's got to pick it up a little bit. But when you add all of that together, and sometimes these awards can be not necessarily lifetime achievement awards, but hey, we probably should have given this to you last year, but we're going to give it to you this year. I think you see that a lot with offensive linemen in the Pro Bowl, for example.
Exactly.
But Jason Licht has to be in that conversation.
He does. Well said. And listen, if you keep winning, they have no choice but to talk about you. It's that simple. If you keep winning, they have no choice but to talk about you. And you're going to have an opportunity here on some of these primetime games. Falcons game on Thursday Night Football, where you're the only show in town. A Monday night game coming up against the Ravens at home. And
Sunday night against the Chiefs. Yeah,
Monday night against the Chiefs. It might be a situation. I don't know what that date looks like, but I don't know if they can move the Bucs Saints game. But if both of these teams keep winning and both of these quarterbacks continue to play, they might be flexed at some point, into a national TV appearance. Certainly later in the year. That Week 18 game looks like it's going to be.
Can you imagine the two of them playing for the to win the NFC South, that
Yeah.
would be unreal.
In week 18 in Tampa, yeah, where the Saints usually play pretty well, unfortunately.
True.
So
And
yeah,
on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So yeah, that's definitely it's just keep winning. It's just like Chris Godwin. If he keeps catching touchdowns and keeps racking up, yards the way he is, 15 catches on 15 targets, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. Whew. Pay Chris.
Yeah, thanks to Redfish for this $1.99 super chat, who says we can't let Godwin go. He and Evans are good together.
Yeah.
I mean, again, 2 games in, but I feel like I'm watching the Chris Godwin from 2020 and 2021, or even 2019, when he had statistically his best season of his career. He looks like the old Chris Godwin. I don't know what else to say. He's getting yards after the catch. He can move it down the field, obviously, with that 41-yard touchdown catch and run. Like, obviously, he was already down the field, but he still had to beat the defensive back to the end zone. A slower Chris Godwin, he gets tackled at, the 5-yard line or something like that. But he did go the rest of the way. So I love what I'm seeing from Chris Godwin. Obviously, he is once again a staple of this offense. It's still going to go through Mike Evans, but Mike Evans had a relatively quiet game yesterday, and I think we're in store for a monster Mike Evans game coming up against Denver this Sunday, just based off of he always has a 100-yard game within the first 3 games of a season, going back like the last 5 years. But Chris Godwin is so important to what Tampa Bay is doing on offense.
It really is. And you have to give Jason Licht credit for saying, we're not going to extend you. We want you to prove it. Because Chris Godwin, did have that knee injury, and he did lose a step. He's regained it, but he did lose a step coming back from that, which is natural. Sometimes it takes you 2 years to get back, if you can get back to full strength from an ACL injury. He'll be 29 I believe in February. That's his birthday. So before free agency next year, he'll be 29, just like Mike was 31 prior to the start of the season. Don't rush into these things. Let the season play out. They let it play out with Mike. Jason Licht, Todd Bowles have a great relationship with everybody, really, but certainly with Mike, certainly with Chris. Jason Light's done something, folks, that we need to talk about a little bit more. He's not only drafted the best receiver in Tampa Bay history, he's drafted the second best receiver in Tampa Bay history. That's hard to do, to draft 2 of the best players at their position with one general manager. But that's what's happened here. So having said that, you got to let it play out. And so far, so great for Chris. I mean, he looks like a guy that you want to pay, and you want to write a big check to, and you want to have the press conference and the boat parade and keep him in red and pewter for several more years.
No question about it. And those relationships are so important, because if the Bucs told Mike Evans, of all people, like, you got to prove it and then we'll give you a contract.
Yeah.
Well, if Mike Evans has to do that, then there's nobody else in that locker room that can say, oh, well, I'm going to hold out, or whatever the case may be. Because if they're holding Mike to that example and to that criteria and that level, then everyone else has to live up to it too.
Yeah.
Let's get to the super chat from Hizo. Thank you. Hizo813. Thanks for the $5 super chat. Who says, SR, Matty Diamonds, did y'all find out who on the staff was crying after the win?
I did not.
I did not.
That's been like way down here on my list of things to do today. It's not up here. So I'll try to find out, but I don't know. I guess I heard Jenna Lane ask that in the press conference or something.
I wasn't sure who asked it.
Okay.
I wasn't sure who asked it.
Okay. All right. Which it's fine. I'm just saying. I heard it was asked. I don't know. I don't know that.
I did like Todd's response, where he was like, "There's no crying in week 2." Kind of going back to Tom Hanks in A League of Their Own. There's no crying in baseball. There's no crying in week 2. It's a regular season win. Yeah. Save the tears for the postseason, or a postseason entry. Thanks to LDBC's Most Wanted with this $4.99 super chat, who says, with the development of McCollum and Servassier Dennis, major props to Jason Licht, but also the coaching staff. Both drafted in the 5th round as projects and are playing great. That's a fantastic point of just late round picks that have been working. We
have the most informed, educated, insightful fans that tune into the Pewter Report podcast. I love it. I love reading the comments. I love the questions you guys ask. Yeah, we spend a little bit more time in the super chats because, that's just how it works. But it's not even that. We roll through, as Matt's answering a question, I'm looking through for some other comments as well. you guys know what you're talking about, and hopefully that's just a reflection of us because we try to do our best to entertain, but also inform you guys. And this is just a fantastic point. It's one thing for general managers to hit on the number 1 draft pick. You're supposed to do that. It's another thing to kind of hit on that second or third round pick. Day 3 used to be an adventure in Tampa Bay. Jason Light's gotten a lot better at it. When you're finding starters and studs in the 5th round, and you're making a trade, I've talked to Jason Light, and he said he told me this last year. I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this. I don't think it's like off the record stuff, but it's like he said my best trade is trading back into the 5th round to draft a starting corner, and this was like before he ended up starting. But that's what he and Todd Bowles thought of Zion McCollum, that all the tools are there. He just needs experience. He's got to level up from Sam Houston to the NFL. It took a little while, but man, I mean, what a game by Zion McCollum. First of many this season.
He's arrived, and I thought it might take until next year where he gets like the full true blue breakout year, and it coincides with a contract year. But no, he's picked it up right away. And also credit to Jason Light. Yes, it's awesome finding starters, but also finding like some contributors in late rounds. Like Trey Palmer, what was he, a 6th round pick?
That's right.
Drew the pass interference penalty on that first drive and ended up leading to a field goal. So everyone, yes, you want to find the starters, and that's the most important. But even finding guys that are only getting a sliver of snaps in a game and still making an impact one way or another.
Yeah. Sure.
Thanks to Nicholas Rodriguez for this $4.99 super chat, who says, can you guys explain why the running game is so bad, and is it a concern?
Yeah, the running game is bad because Detroit's run defense is really good. And this is something that Liam Cohen talked to us about on Thursday at the press conference. And he was concerned about it. He's like, the Lions, man, even in nickel defense, they don't play nickel typically. They will play their 3 linebackers. Now, they lost Alex Anzalone in the second half, and I think that forced them to go a little bit more nickel, Matt, because he wasn't in there. He was out for the game. But when he was in there, they had Derek Barnes and Jack Campbell. They were playing a 4-3 base, and they just designed to take away the run. And you heard the game plan from the horse's mouth himself. Dan Campbell said, we wanted to make Baker Mayfield beat us with his right arm. And it didn't work out. It almost kind of did because they did take away Tampa Bay's ground game. But at the same time, they also took away the Rams' ground game as well that first week. They didn't rush for 100 yards. And a little bit of a news flash here. Detroit was the 2nd best run defense last year. They were allowing 91 yards per game on the ground, 2nd best in the league. And Detroit this year has, between the Tampa game and the Lions game, they have averaged, I want to say around 74 yards per game allowed. So they're really good. And Tampa Bay's offensive line, still a work in progress. 2nd game from Graham Barton at center. And I thought he had his moments for sure. And maybe we slept a little bit too much on the combination of DJ Reader and Aleem McNeil. But honestly, they're probably as good as Washington's terrific tandem inside of Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne. And the linebackers are better than an aging Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louva. Yeah. So they just did a better job. And then you throw in the fact that Luke Gedeke wasn't there. I mean, Luke Gedeke probably does not allow as many sacks by Hutchinson. Maybe not any, but certainly not 3 out of the 4.5 that he got. And you got to think that having Luke Gedeke in there, who is probably one of your best run blockers, Matt, you can maybe add 20, 30 more yards rushing just based on him alone. He's that much of a factor. So I think school in there, it's a huge drop down, as it is for most teams around the league, between your starting tackles and the swing tackle. It's you. Find me a team that has that swing tackle that comes in and you just don't miss a beat. I don't know that there is one.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be a downgrade when you have a backup offensive lineman in there. And the Bucs have done this interesting thing over the first 2 weeks where, as far as just running the ball, they get a little traction going with a couple of 4 or 5 yard runs by Rachaad White. Then the middle of the game is just nowhere to be found. And then obviously they exploded again against Washington, a little bit different against Detroit, but they started doing the pony package, which they ended up scoring on the Chris Godwin touchdown. But they started doing the pony package a little more, getting Rachaad White and Bucky Irving on the field at the same time. And they kept sending Bucky in motion, and they had a little bit of success. Obviously not great overall, being your leading runner. But they started trying to at least forced the Lions to beat them sideline to sideline when it wasn't working going north and south. So overall, it didn't work as much as the Bucs would have wanted.
I would say
the Lions do deserve credit.
Yeah, I would say that the real barometer is 3 weeks in. You've seen 111 yards, then you saw 40 yards on the ground there.
Yeah.
The Broncos come to town, and again, it's early in the season, right? But they're allowing 143 yards on the ground. Okay, so this should be an opportunity where you're running, and the Broncos have scored 20 points in their season opener and a loss to Seattle, and then 6 points last week to the Steelers, or I should say yesterday. So they don't have an explosive offense. So if Tampa Bay can explode on offense, what do you do? You throw the ball to score, and then you run to win. So this could be and should be an instance where Tampa Bay's run game gets healthy against a bad Broncos run defense.
Yeah, and they'll probably be somewhere in between the 37 points that they scored against Washington and the 20 that they scored against Detroit. Caleb Bartlett with the $1.99 super chat. Thank you, Caleb. Says, what is wrong with Jake Camarda? That's a really good question because
wrong with him.
That punt by Jake Camarda at the end of the game when the Lions got the ball back with, what was it, 50 seconds and one timeout? That was a terrible punt. It was a line drive. There was no hang time, and it wasn't far down the field. And, if it was a line drive and it got to him at like the 20, fine, whatever. But, I mean, that put the Bucs in serious jeopardy in that situation.
I know what Jake Camarda needs, Matt.
Yeah, he needs a Celsius energy drink to start booting the football. Of course, Celsius is the official energy drink of PewterReport.com. Check out their new flavors, the sparkling watermelon lemonade and the sparkling kiwi strawberry. Tons and tons of great flavors of Celsius. So if you need to know where to find a Celsius energy drink, go to the store locator on their website. Punch in your address and it'll tell you the closest place where you could pick one up. Could be a Walmart, a health and fitness store, a Publix, or a Stop and Shop. Or, if you're lucky, it might be your bodega.
Bodega.
And once you know you love Celsius and you want more and you want to buy it in bulk, you can buy it in bulk over on Amazon with the subscribe and save. I'd recommend getting the variety pack because there's so many great flavors. And after you purchase it on Amazon, you can have it sent to your place of residence whenever you want. Just make sure you're drinking Celsius energy drinks, the official energy drink of PewterReport.com. By the way, so just a reminder, as Scott said earlier on the show, we are in our in-season, regular season schedule. So we're obviously doing the show right now. No show tomorrow on Tuesday. The Bucs have off, so we don't have any player availability. And then we have shows on Wednesday and Thursday. And then, of course, everything that we do on Sunday, including the Pewter post-game show. So Wednesday's show is the preview show where we will preview Bucs versus Broncos and get into all the nitty-gritty details of that big-time matchup.
And then for a little bit of an extended preview, you can join us. And this is so much fun. We're doing this now at 9 o'clock on game day mornings. So at 9 o'clock on Sunday, Pewter pregame, Bucs Broncos here on Pewter Report TV. Check that out. It also streams on the front page of PewterReport.com as well as X and Facebook. And then make sure that you join Matt Matera and our own Josh Capo for Pewter Game Day, September 22nd at 1 p.m. this Sunday. Again, on PewterReport.com, here on Pewter Report TV, on X and Facebook.
Yeah, always a fun time. Enjoyed the shows, the preview shows, and game day has been a blast the last 2 weeks. It helps when the Bucs win, but we have a good time no matter what. So let's keep the super chats rolling. Thank you to Callum Shaw, a Pewter Report YouTube channel member, giving us a $4.99 super chat. I believe that's either the euro or the pound.
Yep.
I know people criticized me last time when I got it wrong, so I'll say each of them this time.
Yeah.
Tight ends used for blocking this week. Hope started seeing more than the 3-1 in the future with them used catching. Can I loan Vea my knee for a month? And Bowles with the praising emoji.
Yeah, Cade Otton had a terrible game blocking. Wasn't much doing either in the receiving department. I mean, he should have had a touchdown catch. It was a great scripted play down there. What a phenomenal defensive play that was by Branch.
He had a great game. He had the interception too. So Brian Branch balled out in that game.
Yeah. So I don't know. Just they got to get better. Certainly in the run game and then also in the receptions department. Again, this should be a get well game against the Broncos. Speaking of get well, Matt, you were at the team facility today. Not to keep people in suspense, but there was some big news about a big Buccaneer defensive tackle named Vita Vea.
Yeah, Vita Vea. We spoke to Todd Bowles today. Obviously, we all saw the knee injury that happened to him in the game when Yaya Diaby kind of went flying into his knee at the end of a play. Bowles came back today and said that it is a grade 2 MCL sprain for Vita Vea. He is day to day, but he is not ruled out for Sunday's game against the Broncos. So still a possibility that Vita Vea is able to go. Obviously did not look great on the video when Yaya fell into him. And grade 2 MCL sprain, I mean, I'm not a medical professional.
Yeah.
I don't know how bad that is. To be honest, I would still be kind of surprised if Vita Vea played, especially now that the Bucs have this 2-0 cushion. But I think what makes it tougher is the fact that Kalijah Cansey has been out. Like if Cansey was fully healthy, then I think they just go, all right, we're gonna go without Vita Vea in this one. But if they're both out, you're relying on Logan Hall, and I think Greg Gaines did a solid job in that replacement role. But I don't know if he can do that week in and week out.
You never want to overlook an opponent. You never want to do that. This is a league where there's any given Sunday. But Matt, I'm with you. I think if you look at you're playing the Denver Broncos, whose leading rusher through 2 weeks is Bo Nix with 60 yards. Javonte Williams has 40. The Broncos can't run the ball. They can't score points. They can't throw it. And if you can beat Jared Goff and the Lions and David Montgomery and Jamar Gibbs and Sam Laporta and Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown without Vita Vea for a half and without Kalijah Cansey, I think you do look ahead a little bit and say, we don't want him to have a recurrence of this knee injury. We don't want to rush him back too soon because, man, you get the Philadelphia Eagles on the horizon. Yeah. It's going to be a big NFC game. And then after that, you have a short week with the Atlanta Falcons on the road. So I think you have to be smart with your roster here a little bit and say, we like what we saw from Greg Gaines. Will Golston, the old man, can still get it done a little bit when he needs to. CJ Brewer, not bad. We'll see. Logan Hall, back in action. Kalijah Cansey, I don't know if he's going to play this week or not. We'll know more on Wednesday if he practices. I don't think he will, unless something miraculously happens between now and then. I want to say he's probably going to maybe be available for the Eagles game, but if not, the Falcons game. So we'll see. The other news that we probably should talk about is the fact that we've got a big super chat here.
Yes, we do. Thank you to JTP155. Or 155, I should say, with this $20 super chat, who says, "What's up, Pewter people? It's my birthday, and
happy birthday
gift I could get, happy birthday to you, JTP155. And the best gift I could get was a Victory Monday. Do you guys think the Saints are legit, or are we just witnessing the part of the year when Carr looks like an actual NFL QB? Go Bucs!" Thanks for the super chat, and again, a very happy birthday to you. I hope you have a fantastic day. Let's get into the Saints. I mean, what a start for them at 2-0. I am kind of in the middle right now of, are they legit, or is this just an early season thing and then they will come kind of crashing back down to earth? Now, they play the Eagles this week, and I think that's a big test. Well, obviously, crazy. The Eagles played 3 NFC South teams in a row, playing the Falcons tonight and then the Saints next week and the Bucs the following week.
Yeah.
I'm still leaning toward, I think Clint Kubiak, obviously, has done a fantastic job, all the points that they've scored.
Yeah.
But I'm waiting to see, once there's more tape on the Saints offense, once teams start to figure them out a little bit, we don't know just yet how Kubiak and the Saints will be able to counteract the counter in the first place.
Right.
So I think right now they are a playoff contender, which is still surprising. But I'm not ready to put them as a divisional threat just yet.
Yeah, it's interesting to note that there's 2 quarterbacks that have 5 touchdown passes in the NFL. One of them is Baker Mayfield. The other one's Derek Carr. Both have 1 interception. Give the advantage to Baker Mayfield for the 1 rushing touchdown. But so far, so good for both of these NFC South teams. I'm with you, Matt. I think I agree with everything you said. Let's wait and see if the Saints come back down to earth offensively as more teams get a bead on what Clint Kubiak is doing, and they face maybe some tougher defenses as well. One thing I do know for sure is we've got some awesome Pewter people, not just talking about our Pewter Report TV channel members, but just everybody who checks us out. and watch us, the Pewter Report podcast, especially on Mondays. It's the most fun day of the week, especially when it's a victory Monday, because we have a great turnout for roll call, man.
Yeah, let's get to some people that joined us today. A great turnout once again, so appreciate all of you. Let's give a shout out to Frederick Rapp, watching from Gothenburg, Sweden. Also says 2-0, baby. Got some Baker Mayfield fans in the house. Jesse Presto watching from Norman, Oklahoma. Soldier out of Washington, D.C. Justin watching from Hawaii.
Wow.
Cowie, I don't know how you say that other one, but shout out Hawaii. Callum Shaw, who super chatted us before, watching from Liverpool, England. We got a Canadian in the house, Light Engine from Vancouver Island. Dustin Smith, Pensacola, Florida, home of Roman Reigns, the tribal chief. Anakin's Hyper, right here in our backyard of Tampa Bay. Going international once again. Number one Bucs fan from Ramstein. Germany. Yeah, du hast. Cam from Switzerland, so going international again.
Wow.
And the last two, Corbin is Jack from Newport Richey, Florida. Also Longleaf. And then LDBC's Most Wanted, Bakersfield. Shout out Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Bakersfield, California. So that was just a couple of many
Very
people that were in our roll call today.
Yeah.
So shout out to all of you. Appreciate all your support.
Speaking of those Bucs fans over in the UK, they're going to be descending on Tampa Bay. I think over 100 Bucs UK members coming in town en masse for the Bucs Broncos game. And I've been invited to a little soiree on Friday night where I'll be visiting and mingling. I met some of you back in 2019 when Mark Cook and I and Cliff Welch, our photographer, went over across the pond to watch the Bucs and Panthers in England. And so I'm looking forward to if you can bring some Fullers over, some Fuller's London Pride, that'd be awesome because I miss it. It's great beer. But I'm looking forward to Friday night with the Bucs UK crowd.
For sure. Paul Bowen, thanks for the $1.99 super chat, who says, Happy Victory Monday. It was ugly, but I'll take it.
Yes.
Win is a win, and I think the Bucs are showing early on they are gritty. Very, very gritty. Thanks to Marcos Blanco for the $1.99 super chat. Baker looks so confident with his receivers. He absolutely does, and this may be crazy to say, and I wasn't watching every single Baker Browns game back in the day, but I haven't seen Baker this fluid with the football, just feeling so good since he won the Heisman in Oklahoma. I know it's crazy to say.
No, you're right on.
That's how
good
target, Baker looks and feels. So far through 2 games with the Bucs.
It's one thing to run for your life and scramble, but do it under poised conditions, and he looks very poised when he's doing it. He looks in control, even though he's running for his life. Sometimes the pocket collapses, he's kind of squirts out of there. It's eyes downfield. He doesn't look rattled, right? He's either like, I'm going to run for a first down, or I'm going to throw this ball for a first down. Very calm, cool, collected, even under fire. You love to see it.
Yeah, there's nothing of him being frantic. And when he is scrambling, I'm not like, oh my God, he's about to lose the ball.
Right,
like how you feel with some other quarterbacks. And I know he did fumble it on that first sack by Aiden Hutchinson, but I don't see that as a common thing. Thank you to T for this $19.99 super chat. Very generous of you. Says, you ever think how similar the Bucs and Saints path has been the past few years? Super Bowl winning head coach passes baton to their defensive coordinator. Hall of Fame quarterback retires. New quarterback comes from a dysfunctional organization. Leftover offensive coordinator replaced with an offensive coordinator that modernized the offense. T.
Wow.
Spot on,
man.
Spot on with this super chat and this.
I'm going to leave the show right now. Just let you and T take over the show because that's fantastic analysis right there. Holy smokes!
Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah, I will say this. I will say this about Drew Brees. The Buccaneers retired him, which is cool. Last pass intercepted by Tampa Bay. Last game was a playoff loss at home to the Buccaneers in 2020. But the guy does run a pretty good restaurant called Walk-Ons.
Game day at Walk-Ons is just different. And it starts with the way our teammates prep each dish from our scratch menu. No shortcuts. We are hand-cutting every single mozzarella log straight from the block. Hand-peeling, stuffing, and bacon wrapping each voodoo shrimp. Hand-carving ribeyes for our steaks and po' boys. And hand-slicing, then tossing our boneless wings in our house-made sauces. With wall-to-wall TVs and food like this, why would you want to watch anywhere else? That's game day. The Walk-Ons way.
It's not just game day at Walk-Ons. It's happy hour and not just until 5 or 6 o'clock on Mondays. No, it's happy hour till close on Mondays. You can't beat that. There's a Monday Night Football game. Go watch it at Walk-Ons and enjoy these happy hour specials. From now till close, $3 happy hour pours, $3.99 domestic pints, $4 house wines, $6 fried pickles, $8 boneless wings and cheeseburger sliders. The sliders will fill you up, man. It's so good. And if you can't make it to Walk-Ons today, get there tomorrow. It's all day happy hour from open to close, including $5 Tito's. You can't beat that. It's the best happy hour anywhere. They've got TVs galore. It's the place to go to watch Monday Night Football, Thursday night, even especially the weekends. Game day special, Saturdays and Sundays. $4.49 pints of Michelob Ultra Bud Light and Budweiser, $5.99 22-ounce pours, $5 neutrals, $5 Heineken Silver 12-ounce cans. It's the place to go for food and football. It's Walk-Ons. 3 locations to serve you in the Tampa Bay area, up here at Wesley Chapel, Lutz, across from the Outlet Mall, Midtown Tampa, down there by Matt, next to the stadium or around the stadium, and then in Lakeland. So make sure you get to Walk-Ons.
Great spot to watch games and great food and drink as well. Thank you to Moises Sousa for this $1.99 super chat. Who says, I mute the TV and watch you live for every game. Thank you so much for the kind words. Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to hear the regular announcers that are supposed to be down the middle and you want a little more Bucs insight, play-by-play and drive-by-drive, and obviously looking through the lens of the Buccaneers, watch the Pewter Game Day show with myself and Josh Capo. We also get the guys from WDAE on the show. We had Aaron Jacobson last week. He'll be on again this week. We've had Zach Blobner on, and T-Kraz joins us as well. So, yeah, it's so much fun. Can't wait to do it again this Sunday at 1 o'clock for Bucs versus Broncos. And the Bucs win this game with a 3-0 start. I mean, it's going to be some happy people in the comments. So, very much looking forward to it. Rich Suggs, thanks for the $2 super chat. Mm-hmm. Any idea how Gedeke got concussed in practice?
He did not.
So fast.
Yeah, no, he did not. And if you are a Pewter Insider viewer, that means you're a Pewter Premier or Pewter Platinum member, you found out what happened because we talked about it on Friday's Pewter Insider show. It's a special 30 to 45-minute show that Matt and I do every Friday at 1:30 for our Pewter Report TV channel members, Pewter Premier and higher. That means Pewter Platinum. So I'll share it with you because we already broke the news to them. Luke Gedeke actually suffered a concussion during the game, mild concussion, and no practice on Monday or Tuesday. But when he donned the practice field attire, the helmet, the shorts, the pads and stuff, it didn't feel right. So the team yanked him from practice, put him through a concussion test, and he's a trench player. So if you're showing signs of concussion still on Wednesday, you're not going to be playing on Sunday because that's a collision sport. Every play you're banging heads, different for a cornerback. So hopefully Luke Gedeke gets well soon because the Bucs certainly could use him, but didn't happen in practice, happened against the Commanders. And
he was posting on social media after the Bucs won. So that's always a good sign. Typically, if you're on social media, you're feeling a little bit better.
Yep.
Thank you to Richard Taroka for this $1.99 super chat. What's up with Camarda? How short is his leash?
Short. The Buccaneers have a practice squad punter, so it is short.
KJ Chap with the $2 super chat. Thank you very much, KJ, who says, do you think Baker woke up feeling dangerous? I think Baker woke up on Sunday morning ready to kick ass because he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he had a chip on his shoulder from day one when he joined the NFL, not even the NFL, college. He still plays with that chip on his shoulder.
That's
so
right.
Maybe he felt a little dangerous, but he woke up ready to kick ass, and kick ass he did.
Yep. Just like you can do when you have the Autograph Fandom Rewarded app. You can download it for free at the App Store on Apple, Google Play for an Android phone. Co-founded by Tom Brady, this is a great company. It's an app that allows you to read all of Pewter Report's content, watch our Pewter Report podcast, and get rewarded. You get points every time you read our stories, not just our stories, but any story about the Buccaneers or maybe your favorite college team. So make sure you download this app. It's free to download, free to use. Make sure you use the promo code Pewter to sign up. It's absolutely fantastic. You can turn in those points for team merch and also tickets to games. So it's a great way to take your fandom to the next level, almost like going to pewterreport.com.
That's right. So make sure you follow us on X, Facebook, and Instagram at Pewter Report. And our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV, where we have tons and tons of content. So please make sure you like and subscribe. Leave a comment below as well. We'd appreciate if you guys did all of that. Appreciate everybody for watching the show today. We love all of the Peter people. Reminder, no show tomorrow. We will have a show on Wednesday at 4 p.m. when we preview Bucs versus Broncos. But that's going to do it for us today. So for Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for another edition of the Peter Report podcast. Out.